That way works too.
It works all right. But then when we wanted to do like the actual game, I can't use it as an overlay on the board because it captures all of Discord, not just the.
Oh, yeah, that's easy to fix. What you do is just pop out the chat window and then have it capture the chat window.
Oh, I'll see. See, where were you? Where were you 3 hours ago?
Dude,
well, speaking of
master
Nate's,
of technology, just pop out the chat window. I guess I could do that on Roll20 too, eh?
Yes.
I could just pop out each of the windows and make them bigger.
Yes. Yep.
That's what I should do. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. Isolate your NDI source and your SFMC thingy majiggy. Do I sound as techie as Nate?
You're doing a passable job. I'd give you in Call of Cthulhu terms, I'd give you like maybe a 30% chance on your computer skill roll to fool somebody. It would be a hard computer skill roll though.
Ooh,
you might be able to fool a layman, but if you were doing an opposed roll against Nate, he would just see through your.
That guy would catch it. Yeah.
You'd be just like, this guy doesn't know anything.
He had a super clutch moment right at the end of our Pulp Cthulhu game on Friday night. That was actually insane.
Dude, yeah. That was. By the way, Nate, I will make you proud. I did an overlay for the Blob stats while we were streaming the Blob, and I figured it out like minutes before the game on how to do it. Yeah, it was awesome. And so
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, you're right.
So do I need to make contact with my Labyrinth players?
I would, yes.
Okay.
At what time is your Labyrinth stream? 11?
Noon
Pacific?
Tomorrow.
Noon. What time zone are you in? I forget.
I am in 1 hour ahead of you.
Okay, so yeah, 11 tomorrow.
Come on, Nathan.
I will be able to watch you guys because the COVID mask probably is going to take close to 4 hours, and we started. I guess your time 8. So I'll get to catch and watch you guys do your labyrinths. Where are you streaming it on? Both the Great Old Ones and the Man from Lane?
Yeah, I'll be streaming one table. I don't know how I've never played it, so I don't know how the whole.
I don't think any of us have played it, actually. I don't think any of the hosts have actually played it.
It should be just a total disaster.
Dude, it'll be fine.
I'm going to put you guys on the command center.
You just need to handle the technical side of it.
I guess you haven't updated the Google Doc since I still have Zero Grim who can play at this table.
Oh, yeah, I'll have to fix that. Surprised you were talking about biting the bullet and buying TTS, so.
No, that I'm mastering so many different technologies this weekend that TTS would be one. If I had another week, sure, I could figure it out by then, but
ain't nobody got time for that at that point.
It does take time to get used to it. Trust me.
Yeah, where is Nathan?
I sent him a text as well and nothing.
Is he working?
He hasn't responded. Dude, I hope not, because...
Knowing him, he's probably working.
That would suck, because trivia is the last half of our thing. Yeah, so far, my favorite thing... Well, I guess we can save that. Unless we're actually like live streaming right now.
I mean, we've been live streaming for like 15 minutes.
I thought we were gonna start over. Shoot.
I mean, people are in the chat already. It's too late for that. We've been preambling. It's been a good time.
Maybe Nathan's just downing like a fifth of vodka. Just be like, let's go. Give me another minute. Let's go.
How do I direct message somebody on Discord? Like I have the ID, right?
Yes.
Turtle Fan 2082.
Are you part of the labs like actual thing on the Farcom Discord? Because there's a special group for.
I see no such group.
Nate.
Yes, more Buffalo Wild Wings.
I
Love
left
it.
the freaking app and went back in. More Buffalo Wild Wings.
I'm just gonna do nothing but run 30-second ads if that's the case.
Yeah, I see a bunch of lists for side events, and the blob, but I don't see any.
It's under the what is it? The tickets channel or something like that.
Surprise guest, Robert. More talk, less nervous and fidgety. Surprise
I
guest.
see mod chat, event host chat, registration forms, ticket booth, announcements.
Yeah, go to ticket booth and then hit the compass, and that should show you all the Labyrinth's channels. Yeah, Buffalo Wings hype.
No, just hit the compass.
Yeah, so if you go into the ticket booth,
I am in the ticket booth.
and then you hit the reaction under event access or warning or whatever.
Yeah, I did that. And it just adds me to the group.
Yeah, and then your group C.
Okay.
Let me see if I can just do this.
Maybe I'm just not. Oh no! I think I found it. I think I got it here.
You got it?
Group C chat.
I just
Labyrinth of Lunacy event. There I am.
I pinged you in it.
Another penny.
Look at me.
Robert yesterday with the Rex's curse, living the real Rex's curse yesterday.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Dude,
We were playing the Pulp Cthulhu game, and Rex just kept failing all the rolls, even the ones that I think he should have passed pretty easily.
No, he would pass every single check but luck rolls. It was so good.
Luck rolls. Oh, that's what it was. and then he just like snuck past. He was like a rogue. He was playing like a rogue, which was great. He found all the secret chambers, and he almost died like several times.
Everyone almost died several times.
True. Well, Mateo at the end.
He
did the sign of the cross and opened his arms to let the Harbinger hit him, and freaking rolls a nat one, which is, I mean, you can't write that stuff, man.
Dude,
So do I use Turtle Fan 2082 as the thing, or the number 6012?
You should just be able to, if he's in the Discord, you should just be able to do like @TurtleFan. Yeah.
All right. We'll figure this out.
I'll figure it out for you. Don't worry.
I feel like I've learned a lot about. Yeah, he doesn't seem to be. Oh,
It's nice to see so many people in chat, but in our preamble,
There aren't, or there are?
there are.
Well, let's get started then, and Nathan gets here.
Yeah, Nathan.
It's gonna be a short episode. I mean, I have side trivia that, remember we were talking about that one time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's like 3 questions.
Yeah, I guess for now I'll just turn off this overlay. Okay, well, yeah, why don't we just... I know we've been kind of passively talking about it, but how's your guys' con been going so far?
It's been going well. Actually, as I mentioned, I mean, I've been dealing with lots of different technology challenges, and I had just, after a 30-year, almost 30-year break, I started DMing again just last year, and then all of a sudden I'm now streaming RPGs as well as Arkham Horror games. So I was just glad that we got off the first curtain call without any without incident. Learned a few things, and we've got the second session tonight, so I'm looking forward to seeing how the second group does.
Mm-hmm.
I have not had a chance to check out any events, though, because I've been busy hosting my own, and
How'd your chat with buyers go? I started watching like the first 5 minutes, but then I had an event starting, so I plan on watching it after the con.
Yeah, it went really well. It was he was very talkative, and he had a lot of interesting things to say about writing in general, as well as writing Ira the Void and Blood of Balshandor. Some of the editing changes. It sounds like Balshandor went through some substantial rewrites due to various reasons that he explains, and then. But it doesn't sound like he has another novella yet, but he would be very eager to write another if given the chance. But he has an idea for a sequel to the Norman Withers book. So, but we talked a little bit about how the novellas have really, I really like them just because they give you a really good feel for the investigator and make you sort of want to play them more. Like Norman and Dexter have never been investigators that have been particularly appealing to me, and after reading the novellas I was like, yeah, I could play these guys, and other players felt the same way. So that's a testament to his writing that it
Yeah, I felt that way about Dexter, because Dexter's
characters.
kind of, I always thought he was just this like bland magician dude, but he was much more interesting in the novella.
I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah, same. I thought he would be pretty. And when I was telling Richard, like, Richard hasn't played any Arkham Horror LCG, so he was not familiar with the cards at all. But told him I was a little disappointed that, when they revealed the cards for the novella. I mean, you've got Molly and Yaztaroth, and then they've revealed the cards for when he's released in Innsmouth, and they just seem so much less interesting than the cards from the novella. Like, Molly is a really cool character in the novella, and so getting to play with her in the game is equally cool. And I think what is it? His signature asset is showmanship or something like that, which is like, who cares? It's not nearly as interesting.
In the beginning, you asked him about his how he started writing, and he started pretty late. Like he wanted to write early in life, but then he was doing something else and came into a windfall, and then he said it's now or never.
He was working in the mental health sector, and then got burned out on that, as I think probably many people do, and his mother had left him some money, so he was able to pursue a writing career, and obviously he's done pretty well for it. I mean, he's got something like 30 novels in the Forgotten Realms, plus all Champions and all sorts of properties that he's written for. World of Darkness. He's got two Marvel. He's got a Marvel book coming out this fall, and then another one. So yeah, he's busy.
What about you, Nate? How's your con experience been going?
So Thursday, I ended up watching. What did I end up watching? I watched Big Stupid Grin play his new Silent Hill scenario, and that looks really cool. I think he did a really great job with that.
Dude, that was awesome. That scenario was amazing.
Yeah, he did a really great job with that, so that was really cool to see. And then Friday we did our kickoff for Pikmin's Chaos Bag, which we had some issues with audio on my end, but we did fix that for this episode, thankfully. And then, let's see, Friday night I had you, Vase, and some patrons of the show play Pulp Cthulhu, which was an excellent game. That was, I think, one of the best games we've played in a really long time.
Dude, that was so far my favorite thing so far in the con has been that.
It was really fun.
That game was fantastic. It really translated well to the Pulp Cthulhu system. Mm-hmm. I think it worked perfectly for Forgotten Age.
Yeah.
And the way you converted everything, like all the little the little nods to the cards, to the treachery cards and stuff. Overgrown, what is it? Overgrowth and
Overgrowth and arrows in the trees and ants and it was a good time.
Dude,
I'm excited to see what Cameron and Nathan think of it too.
I would like to play Rex.
Oh, nice. Take up Robert's shoes.
Yeah, I don't know. Robert was telling me about how the game went, so I'm not sure I can fill Robert's sizable shoes. But
he did a good job playing Rex. He was very resourceful, especially towards the end.
Yeah, I think everyone really fell into their character pretty well. And then the characters each had like such shining moments, you know. Preston was pretty cool. He financed the whole expedition.
And he had an elephant gun, which was awesome.
The elephant gun. Yeah, that was great. Oh, man. Yeah, it was really cool. And then our last minute replacement.
Who's in chat? It's nice to see you.
Oh, hey. How's it going? And she was playing, not Preston. Who's she playing?
Monterey Jack.
Monterey Jack.
I mean, the only thing I will say that there was a superb lack of cheese puns, but aside from that, I think Nathan will make up for that tomorrow morning.
There probably will be, yeah.
Was that Alana by chance?
I'm gonna butcher this. I think it's Hutzel.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because I've got somebody playing. I think you guys, when we play tomorrow night, that'll be fun.
Oh, I can't wait for Curtain Call. I bet that'll translate well to Call of Cthulhu as well, because that's another one that's very like. It seems like it fits that type of RPG. There's some scenarios I think would be a lot tougher to do. But...
Yeah, I think it does and it doesn't. Like I was telling Robert, like Robert had watched the Curtain Call game, and I think it does and it doesn't. There's certain aspects of it that do, but then the card game tends to include a lot of creatures that while in the card game are pretty much on par with the investigators, they are definitely not on par with the investigators in Call of Cthulhu. So when you run into one of them, it would be Call of Cthulhu investigators are they're very fragile. So where someone like Mark could basically stand toe to toe and just slug it out with somebody, that is definitely not the case in Call of Cthulhu. So I found when I was trying to translate some of the investigators over, it was tricky to find the right niche for them. And I've been sort of tweaking the investigators every day. I go back and I'm like, no, I'll change this about this guy or change this about that, and to give them a little more oomph. Although I have resisted the temptation to give Mark a submachine gun. I've been tempted. I've been very tempted, but...
Well, how much good would it do against the emissary anyways, right?
Well, that's true.
I guess the cultists that show up in that scenario.
Yeah, Robert makes a good point too. It's also dependent on like the player's actions, and it tends to be like a bigger group will do better just because they have more resources between the investigators as a whole.
True.
Yeah, and I think it's also the group. I mean, Andrew is a regular from my D&D game, and he's played Cthulhu once, and he's never played the LCG, so he had no idea what was coming. Mm-hmm. And then Cadius had played Curtain Call, but I don't think he'd ever played Call of Cthulhu. So yeah. So while the rules for the game itself are not that difficult to pick up, there are certain things about it that you can do to improve your odds, and
True.
They didn't necessarily do those. They didn't really do those things, but that's just, I know when I looked back on it, I realized like I butchered one of the combats but I mean, those
in the heat of it happens.
Yeah, those sorts of mistakes are bound to happen, especially when like having run so much D&D where it's very like X player does a certain action and then another player does an action. And in Cthulhu, it's a lot more free form where it's basically like, I want to do this crazy thing. It's like, okay, you can do it. There's no real, like the rules are pretty broad in terms of what you can do. So
it's more narrative driven. And I think also a lot of people that come from Dungeons and Dragons that go into like Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green, they don't realize that it's not as combat heavy. That combat is not really a thing you're supposed to want to do. And they'll dive, head first into a battle when something's coming after them and realize very quickly that maybe it's not such a good idea. That definitely happened to my D&D.
Yeah, the Mark player got kicked in the leg, and he's just like, okay, I'm gonna heal, and I'm like, well, that's 1 point. You get 1 point back.
And it takes an hour to do that.
He was pretty shocked when he did first aid, and he's like, okay, I get a point back. That's I just lost a quarter of my health, and I'm gonna get 1 point back.
Yeah, and the way that injuries and like just your mental and your physical stats work in that game, like you're often screwed well before your hit points or your sanity hit 0. So
yeah, especially with the sanity, it's really, 20% is only like 15.
Yeah, 15 to 20 points. Yeah,
15 to 20 points is all you need to. And in that particular game, I don't think Mark made a single sanity roll successfully. So his sanity dropped pretty quickly.
Yeah, you lose 5 points. You have a bout of madness, and then your character's gone for like 1d10 hours, and then you don't know what happens to them. And then it can devolve very quickly.
Yeah, I just I used the 1d10 rounds for the one bout of madness that happened, and he pulled out of it, but events transpired that were not.
I can't wait to watch that. It sounds like a complete disaster in a good way.
What about you, Vase? You've been quite busy and active for.
Dude, I've been nonstop for Kham since Thursday. Well, Thursday I was mostly spectating. But, I've been trying to get in and jump in as much as I can, consume as much content as I can. But yeah, it's been awesome, man. Like, there's been so much good content, so many great things happening. Like you said, Big Stupid Grin's scenario was awesome. My favorite, the Pulp Cthulhu RPG was great. The Blob this morning, the Blob thing was a last minute thing. JP and I were like, hey, you want to play Blob? And we're like, yeah, why not? And we just joined kind of last minute, and it worked out pretty great.
So did you defeat the Blob?
We did. We had 6 minutes left from the 3-hour marker, the 3-hour countdown. And we played Agnes and Father Mateo. I've been on a Mateo kick. So we were playing Agnes and Father Mateo.
You got to break those bad habits, Face.
Well, it breaks tonight because that's it. Like, Mateo's done for the weekend. But I played him in the Pulp Cthulhu. That's all I played this weekend was Father Mateo. But he did really well. He was a healing machine because of Vermis Mysterious. I kept recurring the soothing melody that caused 0. And then I would recur the, what's that called? Moonlight Ritual, where you can remove Doom. So I'd use the Vermis when it was full of Doom to recur the Moonlight Ritual to remove the Doom from itself and then clear it back up. So
does soothing melody go to the discard pile?
It does. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. So you recur it. I used
I'm glad, because I would have hated to have been like, oh, actually it doesn't. I've been cheating this whole week.
So first I put a soothing melody on Diana, and then she got to do it 3 times. Then it went to the discard pile. Use Vermis Mysterious. Then it goes away, from the game. And then the card draw that I got from it just happened to be another soothing melody. So I was healing like a nonstop. It was ridiculous. So that worked out pretty well. But otherwise, the 4 willpower was not very helpful. And because we were both mystics, she had all the unique mystic items that boost the willpower. So it made it hard for me to pass willpower test, but at least I still felt like I did quite a bit, but she definitely pulled her weight in terms of, Agnes did, in terms of combat and investigation. And
Yeah, I played Marie when I did the blob back at Arkham Knights, and I felt like I didn't do anything. Basically, the whole game. I think I might have investigated successfully like once or twice, but I was playing with Robert at that table, and I was telling him during our chat this afternoon, like, I think I hit the blob with shriveling once and did like 3 points, and then he hit it with his flamethrower for like 17. I'm like, what the hell am I here?
Well, we didn't do that
like
much damage to the blob.
And he had like 17 charges after he jacked it. He was using all those cards to dump ammo on the flamethrower. So I'm like, okay, well, at this rate, it's like the blob is just like something tickles. Oh, it's your shriveling.
Our blob had like 1900, almost 2000 health, 1980 something, and then we ended up we may have done 20 points out of that between the two of us, because we were so strong. We had at one point in the end, we were just running away. We were playing zigzag with the hunter enemies, and I think we had like 6 hunter enemies in one location that kept chasing us around. There was so many enemies.
How many players were there total?
100. I think it was maybe like 146 initially, and then some dropped off.
Damn.
We finished with like 130 something still alive.
Yep. Chat is confirming 132 players.
Oh, 132. Okay, so it started with 132. Initially, it was 140 something that had registered. I guess some didn't make it. But yeah, it was.
So
it was.
how did they coordinate that? Did they
have a website? They had it set up, and that's why I was able to use the overlay for the blob stats. They were just updating. So on this website, you would just type how many clues you got, and it would update it right away. How many countermeasures, so everyone could just go on this website, and it would just keep updating in real time.
Dude, I need that guy to develop me a widget. That'd be sweet.
Dude, right? It was awesome. It was so well done. Like, these people apparently have done this before, so this isn't their first rodeo when it comes to that. But it was real well done. If you pop into I think the video's still processing, but if you pop into my channel and watch the blob playthrough, you'll see the thing on the top right, and it's cool how it just in real time was updating.
That is cool.
Really handy to have. Yeah. So that was a really cool thing, dude. I'm kind of like right now in auto mode, so I don't remember a lot of stuff that happened yesterday either. So I know we played that game, but we played another Arkham game yesterday, right, Nate? Did we?
Well, you did your premiere of
A
Matter of Life and Death.
That's how tired I am. I don't remember shit.
Just remember that you've got to get your wife's jewelry tomorrow.
Right. Yes. Thank you, man.
That errand for your wife that you have to do, that was on your list of things, jammed in between 24 Arkham events. You need to do that one thing.
Thank you. I appreciate the reminder and the 1 hour window I have for that. I sent him my calendar.
Like, downloaded his schedule and just keep track of his personal life.
I sent him a picture of the calendar. I'm like, oh, I can't do it. And then I sent him a picture of it. And in between everything was pick up Lou's jewelry.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, it was my scenario. I'll give you like 2 guesses as to which investigator I played.
I watched it, so I already know.
Was it Father Mateo?
It was.
I'm sorry.
God.
I'm sorry, chat. We're back though.
We are? I don't, oh, there we go. I see
Yeah.
it now.
Yeah, sorry, chat. So yeah, you were explaining that you
The
were
panel
playing.
discussion. Oh, we were past. Where did it break off? I don't even know.
It broke off right when you were talking about Father Mateo through A Matter of Life and Death.
Oh yeah, so that was really cool. We had my brother hopped on the chat, and that was fun because he did a lot of the art in the scenario, and so he joined in on the Q&A, and some really good questions were asked. So that was good. I did die at the end, so Father Mateo didn't fully complete the scenario, but he got to the very, very end though. And then we did that panel discussion, Nate and Stofik and Scott from Mythos Busters. And Scott did a fancy PowerPoint, and we talked about tempo and momentum for over an hour and a half, I think that was.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. We got a lot of positive feedback about it, so I think people really enjoyed it. And that just spawned from a conversation on the Great Old Ones Discord. We were talking, I was like asking a question from you guys actually for an episode in my channel that I wanted to do. And then everyone started jumping in and chiming in. And there was so much good stuff that we were like, you know what, we should just do a panel and talk about it live at FarkinCon.
We're doing it live.
We'll do it live. Oh, we could curse on Twitch now, right?
Yeah. Fuck it. I don't care.
Fuck it. We'll do it live.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So FarkinCon's been awesome, man. I feel like the community's definitely been brought together like more closely. A lot of the content creators are jumping in and out of each other's streams and events, and it's been really cool to see everyone supporting each other in that way. This always has been a great community, but I think this really shows like just how awesome everybody is. So
yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I wish I'd been able to. I'd initially planned to take the convention off work. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to, so that has limited my participation. I would have loved to have jumped into some of the other events. Have either of you played the COVID mask?
Yeah, we
tested
were
it.
one of the first groups to play it.
We were guinea pigs. We died horribly.
We did okay. I mean,
did
all
okay,
things
and then-
considered, we did pretty okay.
Then we threw a Hail Mary to try and get the mask guy or the man in the pallid mask. I forget if we got him or not, but then died.
No,
like
we didn't. I don't even think we got past the second act.
No, so we got the man pop up, and then he pops up in that location where like the shroud value goes up. So I think I had him on me, and then I engaged him and then moved to the location next to it. The little trick that you can do to the lower shroud location.
Yep.
And attempted the test, but I can't remember if we got him or not. But it was like the death happened right after. Everyone else was already dead. We had people, like enemies, coming after us. I think JP might remember what happened. But
I remember like Patrice was the last one standing, and then she like miraculously parlayed or investigated the man in the pallid mask, and then from there it was just
right
she
after
died.
that.
Yeah, she died right after that.
And so it was fun. This scenario was really cool. It's it's got so much tongue in cheek from this whole pandemic thing. It's great. And he's made some changes, so I'm curious to see tomorrow what the new changes will do to the scenario. And of course, I'm taking, because of the whole COVID thing, I'm taking the person with the highest risk of complications.
Father Mateo?
No, Leo Anderson. Leo Anderson, the old man.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah. All right,
So,
well,
yeah.
why don't we go ahead and kick off this AMA, Vase? I know you have some questions in the old Carolyn Fern, the botanist, email address.
Yeah, we got a few. Most of them are about us. I wish that Nathan wasn't working so he could join us, but it might be quicker than I expected because there's only 3 of us answering these. So I will pose the question. You guys will answer first, and I'll answer. Unless you want me to answer first, then you guys can say, "Hey, Vase, you answer that one." All right. So
All right, fair enough.
the first question, I'll start with this one. This one was actually asked by 2 different people who has very similar questions. So Stay Puffed 92 and Aaron H want to know, How did you guys come together as the Great Old Ones? How did the podcast come about? And they asked if we knew each other beforehand.
No, we most definitely did not know each other beforehand. Well, that's not entirely true. Vase, you are actually personal friends with Nathan before the show started. But the show kind of just started because I just emailed a bunch of other Arkham people and just wanted to do this. And here we are, essentially.
Yes, I remember getting an email from Nate, and I was just like, okay, do I want more on my plate? And so here we are.
Yeah, it's really
I
not the
remember
most
getting
like
email from
inspiring story, but you know, you have to start somewhere, and you'd be surprised at how powerful an email can be.
I remember seeing Nate like as a newcomer with the Lost in Time and Space channel, and Arkham Chronicle had featured you
Yep.
on their channel. And I think, am I wrong in this? I think I saw like a video where they said that you were going to take over Arkham Chronicle at some point.
I did some voiceover work for Ed and the other guys from Arkham Chronicle for a little bit, yeah.
I thought I saw it on a video where they're like, oh, we're passing the torch on or something like that. And then they put your logo. But I could have just been imagining that. Anyways, shortly after that, I think you then emailed me about it.
Yeah,
And
it was like 5 or 6 months after I had started my YouTube channel. I was like, I wanted to do more open-ended discussions about the games that I like to play, and wanted to expand into other Cthulhu Mythos games. So I just, essentially just emailed other people in the community asking the same, and here are the four of us. So
yeah, was your idea initially to do just Arkham Horror the card game, or did you want to initially, because I know now the big thing with us is we're expanding it to encompass Lovecraftian games. Was that like your initial idea for long term with the podcast?
Yeah, that was definitely my initial goal, and that's why I wanted to name it something that was, more generic in a Lovecraftian sense, rather than like naming it specifically something geared towards the card game.
Yeah, so initially we recorded one episode, the three of us, and then it just so happens I had a meetup that weekend at the game store where Nathan works, and I saw him there, and I was telling him about our podcast, how the first episode was gonna release soon or something like that. And he goes, "Oh my God, that's awesome!" By the way, he's like the biggest fan of Man from Lang, and then
I'm
so
pretty sure he has like a heterosexual man crush.
Yeah, he totally does. Totally.
Not that there's anything wrong.
And that may not be the limit of it, but yeah, he was obsessed with Man from Lang. So he's like, "Oh my God, I'd love to be on the show with him." And do you think I'd be able to join? I'm, since I work in the game store, maybe I can bring that perspective. And I reached out to the guys, and they said, "Yeah, bring him on. Why not?" And he definitely added a level of comedy to the show, which is nice, because I think that's a piece we were missing, a fourth member and a little bit more of that funniness.
Yeah, it's always interesting to hear his perspective on like how the actual sales of the game goes, because it seems like he's like a nightshade peddler when it comes to the game. He just like
he really is, though.
Take this game.
If you see him in action, man, he really is like a peddler of Arkham Horror the card game. It's hilarious.
Having now visited Guardian Games, I just assume that everyone who enters walks out with a copy of Arkham Horror. It's like they come in, I just wanted to buy some Pokemon cards, and now I've got this Arkham Horror box. I don't know how this happened, but this guy in a Star Trek outfit came and talked to me, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm buying all this stuff.
They don't always wear the Star Trek outfits.
No, Nathan always wears the Star Trek outfit. That's their headcanon.
There you go.
I can only assume. I've been there once, and he was wearing a Star Trek outfit. So
100% of the time.
Yeah.
100% of the time that I've been there, he's.
All right. So, by the way, the chat, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask because we don't have that many to fill the entire episode anymore since trivia's gone.
And so Jay asked us if he was wearing a red shirt. He was most definitely wearing a red shirt.
He wants a red shirt. Yeah, he wants a red shirt.
No, he was wearing a captain outfit.
I thought it
But
was
it
a
was
red
red.
shirt outfit.
No. He was definitely captain material. No, he wasn't an ordinary red shirt for sure. He was in command. I think he even had the little
Yeah, he had the pin. I remember that.
the beads on the lapel that they have in.
Oh my! Yeah, he would go to that level of detail.
I'm not a big enough Trek nerd to know what the meanings of the various pins on the lapel, but
Yeah.
All right. So Richard L wants to know what type of music does Man from Lang listen to, and the first guess was gangster rap.
the first guess was gangster rap.
Gangster rap. Yeah.
No, I don't listen to any rap whatsoever. In fact, I listen mostly to my it depends on my favorite band. I started listening to Skinny Puppy and when I
Nickelback.
started going to university, and since then I have listened to Skinny Puppy and most of the various offshoots, and listening to them turned me on to the legendary Pink Dots, which are a Anglo-Dutch group out of the Netherlands that have, I don't know, 200 albums since 85 or whatever. So, and I listen to them, but I listen to lots of different types of music. My wife has very good taste, so we can listen to pretty much anything she listens to, I listen to. I've been going through a classic punk phase recently, so
Nice.
Nice.
We're gonna quote Man from Lang.
Spotify is good for that because then you find something you like, and then of course you can click on a playlist and then go from there.
Sink
do it.
into a rabbit hole.
Yeah, for sure.
Man from Lang's new name is My Wife Has Very Good Taste. Period. Man from Lang.
Yeah.
Best comment ever.
Yeah, she does. She's got.
I mean,
good
she
taste.
married you, right? That's what you mean by that.
Oh,
Well,
there
yeah.
you go.
Yeah, and
That's
and
got
that
good
was the beauty of going to Beneath the Waves last year, is because the legendary Pink Dots played Portland the Friday night
I
before,
remember that. Yeah.
and so I got to go see them again. So that was
And you got a
That was
sweet
awesome.
T-shirt out of the deal.
yeah. Got to talk to one of the band members a little bit, and it
Oh,
was a
that's-
great show.
That's cool.
All right. So that was a Man from Lang only question. So we don't get asked that, Nate.
Aw.
I think they know. I think they already know.
Yeah, they already know I like lo-fi hip-hop anyway.
What?
It's what
Lo-fi
I listen to
hip-hop?
on stream, so I would
I thought it
assume
was
that most...
island music.
Yeah, sorry, it's island music.
Yeah. Okay, Adrian P. He sent like 4 questions, so I'm gonna interject them in between other people's questions.
Okay.
One of which I don't know how we're gonna answer that one. We'll figure it out. What is your favorite standalone scenario? We'll start with Nate.
Ooh, my heart wants to say Guardians of the Abyss, but my brain definitely wants to say Murder at the Excelsior. Yeah, I think I really like Murder at the Excelsior the most out of all the standalones so far. It's also the one I've played the most, weirdly enough.
And Man from Lang.
I have not played the standalones very much, to be honest. I think I've only played each of them once. And Murder was good. Guardians seemed really hard, but I only have played it solo, and I think it's probably pretty tough in solo. Curse and Carnival. I think I tried to play Curse four-handed Yeah, I can't really answer that because I haven't played them enough. If I play standalones, I usually play the scenarios I like from the campaigns more than the actual standalones. Like I forget who I was talking. Maybe it came up in the stream earlier today, but I sort of consider a lot of that, like the secret name. I think it would make a much better standalone scenario than it does a campaign scenario.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I think it would too.
Because
Yeah, they tend to be
I
longer.
really enjoyed playing it as a standalone, but I think if you play it as part of a campaign, I think you need a much more a specific type of deck built for it, which once you've played it a couple times, you can prepare your deck to deal with it as part of a campaign. But if you're just going through blind, I think you hit that the first time and your deck won't be ready for it, and you're in for a rough time. So I'm looking forward to playing the Wages of Sin. That's the next one on my list to see how that one goes, and I'll make my way through the Circle Undone that way. Rather than playing it as a campaign, I'll just play the scenarios. Like I can't. I think over the past month, I've probably played The Secret Name a dozen times.
Wow.
And so, like, I enjoy it. It's just I don't enjoy playing it in a campaign as part of a campaign.
What
Yeah,
about
for
you,
me-
Base?
I'm with you, Nate. Actually, those two you mentioned are my two favorites. I can't decide between the two. I'd probably go with Guardians because it's a two-parter, and for a standalone, it feels more epic. It's going. I'm a huge fan of Egyptian stuff, as you guys can see by my hieroglyphic tattoo. So, I think Egypt wins it out because of the location. But I do like Excelsior quite a bit. I like that it can play different every time, and the murder mystery is something that I've always been into as well. So I like them both, but I guess Guardians eats it out. We have a couple of chat questions, so why don't we do those real quick before more come through? Nate, why don't you read those out, please?
Okay, so Huitzel asks, will there be a Beneath the Waves next year if Nathan can time it to coincide with the Lovecraft Film Festival that they may just have to fly over and attend? As far as I know, yes, but don't quote me on that. I know Nathan spent a lot of time and effort getting the first one put together. Vase,
I think Nathan would definitely like to organize one. Like he was also, I think he had initially announced this year's right as COVID hit hard, and so it was like, I think it was just like a couple weeks before COVID really dug its teeth in that he had sort of, it's happening, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, okay, it's probably not happening anymore.
yeah, that's right. That was like
I
way
would
back in March.
I would suspect that he would want to do something like that. I mean, based on the attendance last year, it was very well attended by a lot of people from the local Portland community and people far afield from Seattle. I think there was some people who traveled for it, and I know we made some suggestions on how to. I think he was going to make it. He was interested in making it a 2-day event and make it a little bigger, because I think that's the main issue for traveling, is that if people are going to travel to something like that, then you want to get the biggest bang for your buck. So getting a couple days would be, and I'd agree with that, because I know that we at that event, we sat down and played together. We played Murder together for the first time, and then I think I played a fan-made scenario with Nathan.
The Wendigo.
The Wendigo. But even in like a 1 day, you can only really get in a couple games.
2, maybe 3 if you're lucky.
Yeah, and you sort of want to, it would have been nice to play with more people and even like
set up other events or something.
Yeah, just have a chance to actually, like, we sort of showed up and everybody just started playing. It would have been nice to have a chance to actually meet some people, and then be like the next day say like, hey, we should sit down and play something together, because we met at the bar last night or whatnot and hit it off, and we want to sit down and play some Arkham together. So that sort of thing is. But I mean, I know Nathan put a hell of a lot of work into it, and I think it's only his sheer force of personality that I think a lesser man would have buckled under the strain of trying to keep all those ducks in a row. And I know even like we were there, what was it, on the midnight of Saturday night, just putting tweaking and laying out stuff, and he was running around the city picking up last minute.
Yeah, he puts so much effort into it. Like even like all the tiny small details, he really like
balloons and
like
Jello and
the like green and blue balloons, the table mats, the placements, all the prizes that you guys put together. It was really quite incredible. And we had it was sold out, like 60 plus people.
Yeah. So I hope he does it again, but I also hope that like he can get some, maybe put together a team or something like that, so he doesn't have to take the whole thing on his shoulders, because it is a lot of work, and it would be very easy to get burned out doing that sort of thing. But I mean, clearly from the attendance and whatnot, people really appreciated the event, and I think Arkham is one of those games that people tend to play in their small groups, and so you may know like 3 or 4 other people who play it, but I think for most players, not like content creators who tend to have a much broader reach, you don't really meet a ton of people who play this game, and so those types of events I think are really important to build the community and let people know like, hey, there's a lot of other people out there who are interested in this, and you might find out that there's somebody else in your area or in your neighborhood who plays, and then all of a sudden it's just like, hey, you go from not playing to playing every week. And so
it's also why I like Discord, like meeting a lot of the community on Discord, because I mean, it's honestly, there's been players that we've met on Discord that just happen to be like, oh, is anyone going to be in this town, on this day or whatever? And there's people that just happen to live there, and hey, let's meet up for a game, that kind of thing. I know I've met up with a few people that way, and it's definitely awesome to have that kind of, connection. And it's like the game brings us together, and we've chatted plenty of times online, and here we are playing Arkham together, So I would love to be able to organize something like that in this area, but the problem is that the player base, I think, just isn't there, and then it would be difficult to persuade enough people to travel for it. So you might get, I'm not actually, I have no idea how many people you would get if we held something up here on the plateau. It would be like, I know there's 3 for sure. And then after that, it would be, who knows? Because it's just,
I have a very similar
I've been up to Edmonton and played, and there was actually maybe a dozen people there. And so, I'm sure south of me, there's probably another community that plays there. But I think it's just, in my area, at least, there are no stores that sell it. So it's tough to build a community when nobody sells the product.
That is true. That's the hardest part with this game, is getting new players. Man, I see it all the time on Reddit. Like, hey, I can't find this pack or this. I got the deluxe expansion. Where do I find the Mythos packs? Can't find them anywhere, and it is frustrating. It really is. Mm-hmm. That's what sucks.
I've fielded a few questions saying the same question, right? It's like I have all of I've got Dunwich queued up, except, or no, it was Path to Carcosa. He has Path to Carcosa ready to go, except he's missing 1 or 2 Mythos packs. So he's like, okay, well, what do I play next? And I'm like, well, Forgotten Age is probably, the next step. If you're playing solo, don't go to TCU. Or Dream Eaters would be a good one as well. Maybe Dream Eaters, just because it's probably, if you're looking for product, that's your best bet. But I mean, even today, Robert was talking on our stream, like he can't get weavers. He still doesn't have weavers. So
Crazy.
like that's the thing. Like you really need to, especially with a game like this that's based on scenarios, right? It wouldn't be so bad. I think if you were playing, just to use an example like Marvel Champions, right? It's just like, okay, if you don't have one villain, it's not like you have to wait for that villain before you play any of the other villains. There's
To get the rest of the story or something.
Yeah, there's no sequence. Whereas in this game, the sequence is important. So,
Solar J asks, my question is when Men from Lang's Luck will improve. Autofail magnetism seems to be spreading to other great old ones.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
His luck will never improve.
It's bad. I don't know what it is.
That's why you have that contest going, Tentacle Face.
That's exactly why I have that contest going. My Tentacle Face. You can head over to my Facebook page, the Whisper in Darkness channel. Post your Tentacle Face. You can win some prizes. Yeah, it's bad. Maybe it's just the amount I play. That, I mean, you're bound by math to draw some tentacles, but it seems like a lot of I draw in an inordinate amount. I know that I'm not going to spoil it here, but there is a new weakness in the player starter deck, the new investigator starter decks, that basically has my name written all over it. That will be like, I will have to play with that weakness in addition to another weakness, just to give the right experience.
It's so true. When you hate a weakness, like, you get it all the time. I've gotten through the gates every game. Just because the other day I mentioned it on stream that I hate that card. And now I get it every game. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
For me, for the longest time, it's been Indebted and Overzealous are the two that I draw the most often. And even today, when I was going to play with Jared and Robert, Jared needed two weaknesses, so I pulled two for him and got Overzealous in one of them. So like there are some weaknesses I just never see. Like the Akachi deck I've been playing against, the Secret Name, I have the Silver Twilight Acolyte in there just because I never play with him. I've never drawn that weakness, so I'm like, well, I might as well get some play in with this guy and see how he changes the game.
Spoiler alert: you won't like him. He's pretty brutal.
He's not too in Secret Name. The way I've been playing it is, if I draw him at the right time, he's okay. If I draw him at the wrong time,
game over.
No, not game over, but yeah, you start to. I mean, that's the problem with every weakness. Is it's like if you draw it at either early or at a very opportune time, they tend to be pretty mild. It's when you're already struggling and then you draw your weakness. That the thing I hate is when you're playing a game, you're watching your deck, the size of your deck start to dwindle, and you still haven't drawn your weakness yet, and then you're like on the final act, and you're just like, oh, I just need to get through the next 2 or 3 turns, but you're gonna draw your weakness at some point. Because there's just so few cards left in your deck. It's just bound to happen.
Adrian P, his second question out of the 4 he sent in. Would you record and play every single fan-made scenario posted on Arkham Central? Wow. Nate, you run the Twitch channel.
Sure.
It's been requested. Let's do it. Let's just get special guests and just like run them through for the next several weeks.
How many scenarios are there on Arkham Central?
Oh God, there's like 40 something alone in TTS.
If you do one a week, and as new ones come out,
but they're all in. Are they all in TTS?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe if they were all in TTS, I would learn how to use TTS, and then I could do it. If I had to program them all into Octagon, no, I wouldn't do that. But
yeah, they're all programmed in TTS already.
If somebody's done the hard work already, then
Someone asked, Grace F asks, how did each of you get into Arkham Horror, the card game? Mine from Lang.
I had played. I was introduced to Call of Cthulhu back in '89, and so I'd played that game, and then I picked up the second edition of. I even played the very first Arkham Horror back in university, and then when Fantasy Flight released their second edition of Arkham Horror, I picked up that and played the living hell out of it. And I'd played the Call of Cthulhu LCG for a while, and then picked up Lord of the Rings. And I think there was a point where I even thought to myself, this would make like this whole the whole solo game would make a great. You could make a great Arkham Horror game with it. Like it would just fit really well. So of course, when they announced Arkham Horror, I was in from the start.
How about you?
To the point that like I play very few other games these days. Like I have to make a concerted effort to play other stuff if I'm gonna.
Now that you mentioned that, you remember there was one point last year where you felt you were getting burned out. Do you still feel that, or you think that it's gone through that?
No, I think I'm out of that. Yeah, I know last year around, I think it was between sort of near the tail, like after Beneath the Waves, I sort of felt like I was getting burned out, but I think that's gone by the wayside now, because I still enjoy playing and just sit down, and I tend to go in bursts though. Like I won't play for a couple weeks, and then I'll play many, many, many games over the course of a week or a weekend, and then basically play a deck to death, trying to, like I've been playing Akachi lately, so I've been playing Akachi with Decorated Skull. I've built like 6 or 7 versions of that deck, trying to see which is the best one. And then I'll play that one. I'll probably play that one for a little while longer, and then I'll switch investigators and play somebody else who catches my eye and try to just see how it goes. I have to play Akachi though for at least a little while longer, because I saw that Decorated Skull 2 or 3 is coming out in Return of the Forgotten Age, so I'm looking forward to testing that out.
And then you're going to test Mateo next. All right, Nate.
No, I already I tested Mateo 2 years ago. I played a ton of Mateo,
was 2
and
years
I was
ago.
all set.
You also said that about Calvin, and Calvin's gotten a lot better. Things change.
Oh, things do change.
You got a great
I
old
tend to
time
hold
over
grudges.
you.
You hold grudges. You know what Robert said about the standalone scenarios? We should just do an Iron Man for all of them. Like, just run an Iron Man for all the standalones.
Well, one thing I did think about doing on my channel at some point was doing a campaign where I had to play all the standalones as part of it. So pick whatever campaign it is, but then you have to pay the experience and play as many of the standalones as you can in there, to see how many scenarios you can play in one campaign, including the Blob. And
That's what
what would have to
Mythosbusters
happen
did.
though, because you have to pay to play each scenario, pay experience points to play each scenario.
Yeah.
If your investigator dies or accumulates enough trauma, you'd have to play Mateo.
Well, I think you'd have to look at how much experience it was going to cost you first
and
of
then
all.
play Mateo.
Well, no, just so you could prepare. So it'd be like, okay, if I don't know how much if you added up all the experience of the standalones, like would you need 10 or 12 or 15? Like, I don't know. And so then you would have to, when you were upgrading your deck, you'd have to be like, okay, I earned 5 experience points, but I'm going to need to play Curse of the Rougarou at some point. So I need to save like 1 experience point or 2 experience points in order to get them all in an 8 scenario campaign might be might be tough unless you were playing like a mystic who juiced their experience with like arcane research and delve too deep. And
Yeah. Well, rogues can do that now too.
rogues could do it too. Yeah. I think some of the classes, like I'm not sure a survivor you'd be able to earn enough. But I thought that might be a fun way to see if you could actually get to the end of.
At least with the survivors, though, like once you have 9 experience, your deck is pretty much built. So you just spend all of your excess experience on the actual standalones themselves
and Exile cards. Nate, how did you get into Arkham Horror?
So it started with me playing a absolute shit ton of Arkham 2nd Edition in high school, and then from there, I got into other FFG games. And actually interned at FFG when they started the Call of Cthulhu living card game. And I was interning there for a few months after a year of college. And then I got really into RPGs after that, and then got into Call of Cthulhu a few years ago. And then I didn't even hear about the LCG itself until like almost halfway through the Forgotten Age. And then as soon as I picked up the core game and played it once, like I knew that this was a game I was going to thoroughly enjoy. So that's pretty much my story.
Yeah, mine's not too exciting.
You're omitting the most important fact that you were Kingdom Hearts world champion.
That's true. Yeah.
You forgot that.
Well, I didn't want to like humble brag live on chat, you know.
Yeah, I was when we moved to Portland. Now it's been 6 years. I found out, my wife actually found out about the Lovecraft Film Festival and CthulhuCon, which used to be part of the Lovecraft Film Festival. Now they just do the Lovecraft Film Festival in one shot. And so I started going like the second year we had moved here. And I got into Dungeons and Dragons like the following year. And so I was going to this one game store playing D&D. And then that year I went to the Lovecraft Film Festival. It was like the second or third time I went. And I saw they have like a thing where they play games like all day in a separate room. Mm-hmm. And I saw this game and it interested me because of the artwork and all that. And I never heard of Arkham Horror before that. So I'm like, that's interesting. But I wanted to do the film festival thing. I didn't want to play any games while I was there. So then after the film festival, I went to the game store to play D&D that week. And I'm like, I asked one of the guys who worked there, like, hey, have you heard of this game? And they're like, yeah, it's getting pretty popular. We have a whole wall for it. And no, it wasn't Nathan's game store, by the way. It was a different game store.
I was just actually going to ask.
No, I saw it coming. I saw it in your eyes. But yeah, they're like, oh, yeah, it's getting pretty popular. And at the time, it was, I think the second Mythos pack of Carcosa was just released. And they were announcing the second to last scenario, I think, online, because I remember seeing the announcement for that. But anyways, yeah, I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Like they had nothing but good things to say about it, so I bought the deluxe box, and then the very next week I bought like everything that was available for the game.
Yeah, I did a very similar thing. Yeah. My wife was a little disappointed when I spent like $140 buying all of Dunwich and another Mythos bag.
Yeah. But then I spent a ton of time playing. I even actually the next week I called out of my D&D game. Like I didn't show up to my weekly D&D game because I was so busy playing Arkham Horror. So that was my story. All right, so I love this name. The Blob Ate My Homework wants to know, what has been a moment in your life where you committed every card to a test and pulled the autofill? Okay, so I guess they mean real life moment. So sometime in your life where you like committed every card and still managed to pull the autofail. Whoever wants to take that first.
That feels like every fucking game I play on stream almost. I like commit 3 skill cards and then I draw a blessing. I'm like, yes, and then immediately draw an autofail. I'm like, god damn it.
But in your life, I think they wanted to know like in your life.
Oh, in real life?
Yeah, so I guess I'll go first on that one because I knew that question beforehand. My brother and I have a twin brother, Gio, and when we had come to the U.S. from Panama, my mom wanted us involved in the Panamanian community in Florida, right, in Miami. And so she got us involved into this, like, folkloric dance crew that did Panamanian folkloric dancing. And at this point, we were like, I think we were maybe late elementary school, early middle school. And yeah, basically the kite with the, whatever castanet things, or what do you call them in English?
Oh, I don't
Anyways,
know.
so we
No,
were,
we call them castanets in English too.
yeah. So we went to practice with these people for like 2 or 3 months, and my brother and I were just not getting it, dude. We were not getting it. And then they would like all these people, they knew every song, and I guess they assumed we knew what the songs were. And they'd be like, all right, now we're gonna play Andamos Todos or something like that. And then and my brother and I would be like, I don't know what song that is. So anyways, we would go and keep practicing with them, and we kind of had them down. And I remember this is where we committed every card to the test. We right before we got on stage, we performed at Bayside. It's like this outdoor mall area, tourist area, and they had this big performance with hundreds of people watching. And as we're going up, this old Panamanian guy like looks at my brother and I as we're going up on stage, and he goes, "Make your country proud." And
Oh my god.
of course, right? So we get up on stage, and man, we were so terrible. Like, we didn't know where we were going because they switched the order of the songs. And they're like, oh, we had to switch the order because they cut our time. So we're going to play Laura Noche first, and then Andamos Todos second. And we're like, we don't know the song names. Like, we practiced it in one order, and now they're flipping it on us. And we were like lost. We didn't know which partner to dance with. We were looking at the crowd, and people were laughing, and like, it was just a disaster, a complete disaster. And they never invited us back to perform with them again. So that was an autofill moment, definitely. Okay, so now what do you guys have?
I understand what's going on now.
Jeez, now I've been trying to think of one. There have been so many auto-fail moments.
Let us think deep into our tanks here.
What? Someone is asking for the song, Nate, because I mentioned where I'm from.
Oh, the Panama song? Oh, dude, you don't want to hear me sing that, man. That's gotta... We've already discussed this, chat.
Panama. People are singing. That's like a cat singing it.
It's more like beating a dead cat, forcing it to sing it.
Right.
Well, I think the one that sort of I actually remembered it while talking to Richard Lee Byers, my interview with him yesterday, when I was a teenager. I think I was 15 or 16. I did a student exchange to Switzerland, and so I lived in Switzerland for a year. And while I was over there, I started reading a lot of short stories, and so I decided that I would be. I fancied that I could also write short stories, and so I started writing a lot of short stories in my spare time. I think as most teens write. I had gone through the poetry phase already, so I still have a binder of awful poetry sitting in my house. So I started writing these short stories, and I was so confident that I submitted them to a publisher, hoping to get them published, and not just any small publisher. Like I had, my eyes were as big as saucers, and so I submitted them to like the biggest publishers around, and I didn't hear anything from them, and I'm just like, oh, they're just taking a long time or whatever. And it wasn't until I got back to the plateau here that my parents picked me up at the airport, and I told them about this, and they're like, yeah, we've got something to tell you. You received letters from these publishers, and we opened them, but we didn't have the heart to share them with you.
Oh.
And so I was just like, well, what did they say? And I had been pretty confident going into this. Like, I'd read a few Steinbeck short stories, so I thought I could do, that teen confidence that you're invincible and you can do anything. Anyway, the publisher had written a note saying that thank you for your submission, but we don't think English is your native language.
Whoa.
And
that is an autofill for sure.
I don't think I have ever written another short story since. So that tentacle pull was so bad that I just uh yeah, my writing career was nipped in the bud at that point. So basically, not only did I pull a tentacle, but I flipped the table at that point and walked away
Flip the table.
and never put pen to paper again, which was yeah, it was, and I do remember the stories, and looking back, I'm like, absolutely, yeah, I would have probably sent the same letter to myself, but I committed, I went all in on that one, and I might have even played double or nothing too, just to be sure, but yeah, it was definitely a tentacle moment.
I was gonna say Nate's tentacle moment is happening right now with his autofocus.
No, I got it. I got it. So
got it
okay,
working
so I
now.
have one story. It's from my days in fine dining. I remember we were all asked to come up with specials for the menu that were going to be like put onto the next seasonal menu, and I was like gung ho about this particular dish that I was making. I it was some scallop dish, and I was like super gung ho about it. I was like, we're gonna do this like sweet scallop ceviche, and my boss was like, yeah, that's great. And then he like led me into this false confidence, and then I made it, and he turned around and he tried it, and he was like, this is actually the most disgusting thing I think I've ever eaten in my entire life.
Oh my god.
The chef that I used to work for was brutally honest.
Man, no pulling punches, man.
No, dude, he was actually brutal. Like he would get mad. He was like the generic like I'm gonna throw plates and break them kind of angry chef. So
This scallop ceviche is bland.
it's fucking raw. Like that's the point. It's a ceviche.
Dude, yeah, I think Man from Lane takes this one. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're told English isn't your native language.
Yeah, that's hard to hear, and but it wasn't the I think the problem, what happened is that I had learned German grammar in Switzerland, and so I was applying German grammar rules to my English writing, which doesn't make, and I did it even into university. Like I remember one professor was just like, your writing is terrible. Like, what is going on here? And it wasn't only until later that I got everything straightened out. But yeah, that's what I do for a job now. So it's kind of ironic, I guess, that
is ironic.
I managed to somehow right the ship and end up becoming a journalist in the end.
Yeah, it's funny.
Well-
Speaking of irony, too, I ended up becoming that chef's AM supervisor. So
What?
yeah, he,
That's funny.
it's that classic David Chang quote where you have to fail a lot in order to succeed at least once. So
True.
perseverance is key.
So true. Yep. Someone said, oh, is it Robert in the chat? It's not English anyways, it's Canadian, so you're good. Man from Lane. All right. Okay. Jay Sandoval says, what is it about Arkham Horror that you enjoy the most? What part of the game, I guess, is what they're... Either one of you.
I think for me, honestly, it's the community around the game itself. I think it'd be pretty easy for me to like bounce off a game and then continue elsewhere. But really, like the relationships that I've made playing this game is really what keeps me in this game.
Yeah, I like when I play, I enjoy. I don't really play it so much for the story as the mechanics. I often don't read I end up forgetting to read the inserts and stuff like that because I'm more focused on like how does a scenario perform mechanically, and it's the ones that have very good mechanics that I end up enjoying the most.
Yeah.
But, I mean, these days I spend more time talking with the community and interacting with people than actually sitting down and playing. So I guess the game has evolved for me over the past 3.5 years, where initially it was just like play, review cards, do this, do that, and now it's more, I find it like the reviews have gotten harder just because there are so many more investigators to deal with that it's almost easier. Like I didn't think I would enjoy live streaming as much as I do, but now it's one of my favorite parts is going on live and chatting with the people who are in the chat and playing the game, because I don't really have anybody to play with here. So I'm essentially playing with 20 or 30 people at the same time.
I'm the same way. Yeah, I've really come to really enjoy live streaming the game. There's so much like community. What's the word I'm looking for?
Camaraderie.
There's so much camaraderie in the community that, like, when you stream the game, they're trying to genuinely help you succeed, or like point out things in the game that you may have missed, and it's always really helpful because the game's complicated and there's likely things that you're going to miss, especially if you're playing scenarios blind.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. Same thing. Like initially, what attracted me to the game was I liked how the story was told through the mechanics. So I really enjoyed like how it sparked my imagination. Like when you pull a card, like thinking how that scene played out. That's partially the Pikmin's Chaos Bag contest thing that's going on. That's kind of like how I like to play it initially. But I agree with you. I think it's evolved over time. I really enjoy the community more than anything, and that's what this game for me now is about. It's like you said, and I just started live streaming recently, and I would watch Nate play while I was at work, and I'm like, I mean, live streaming seems like really difficult, and like it also doesn't seem fun to me because when I would pre-record my games, like I can edit and I can do all this sort of stuff, but I didn't realize just how cool it was to interact with the community while you were playing, and I really, now that I've been live streaming for this Farkham Con and like the week before, like really fell in love with it too, just like you, man, from Lang and Nate. I really enjoy that aspect of it. Definitely the community, I would say.
Yeah, I think there's I went through an evolution of like initially playing, I would just record my games, and it was always like that quest to play the perfect game of Arkham Horror and not make any mistakes and then it was always sort of disheartening when you'd post the video and then somebody would point out some little thing that you forgot. You forgot to add a doom, or you forgot to draw an encounter card or whatnot, and
invalidates
it's basically I think it was actually Sean from Mythos Busters and I were talking about it one time, and he just said, if you're doing that, if you're trying to be entertaining and play a game at the same time, it's virtually impossible to play perfectly. And I think that in streaming, occasionally the chat will catch things, but it's also, I think the more you do it, you just sort of recognize, you recognize the faults that you have as a player. It's just like, oh, do I forget to add doom, or do I forget to draw encounter cards, or do I forget? For me, my biggest flaw is that I forget text on locations.
Oh, I do that all the time.
I tend to look at locations and be like, oh, I'm at the location. The only thing I care about is the shroud value. And then I forget that, it has this response, or it has this other little thing that you can do there. Like, I think there were those in like Threads of Fate where you can get to play an ally for cheaper or something like that. And it was just like, I'd be like, man, I'd love to play this ally in my hand, but I just can't do it. I can't afford it. And then, of course, if I was paying attention to the locations, so that's why I created my little exclamation point and I put it on location sometimes just to remind myself that
I'm
there is
especially
important
guilty
stuff
of that
going on
when I play Last King. I always forget about those responses on the locations after you parlay. Even though I've played it like 100 times at this point.
Anything with a lot of moving parts, I'm terrible at it. I've gotten so much feedback like on my playthroughs, that are pre-recorded playthroughs, and I think we've all talked about it. Like a year or two later, people are still commenting, "You forgot to do this." I've had And I think live stream people tend to be nicer about mistakes. They're like, "Hey, by the way, you missed this," that kind of thing. Some people tend to like really get rough with you.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
dude, I've had straight up, you put this location in the wrong place. Like when Return to the Night of the Zealot, I put like the bathroom connected to one player. So I just don't see a reason why I should keep watching your record. Okay, all right, fine, don't watch it. Like, dude,
That's just the cesspool of YouTube comments
yeah,
sometimes.
man. It's like, dude, there's nicer ways to say it, but you learn to grow a thicker skin. I've received so much negative comments about my playthroughs, and people disagree with me like vehemently over things. It's like, dude, it's just one person's opinion. But
Yeah.
I think with live stream, it's people tend to be like you said, it's camaraderie. Like they're with you and they're playing with you, and we're all doing the same thing for the same goal. Versus a pre-recorded game where it's like, let me watch this guy play. Oh wait, that's a mistake. I don't think I should watch him play because I'm going to learn things the wrong way or something.
Yeah.
So it's.
I think part of that too is like when you watch other card games, like especially like Magic, those games are very precise in the way you play them, and people are very critical of play mistakes and stuff like that. So I think
that's a good point.
Part of it is
that's a good point. I hadn't considered that. Yeah.
Yeah, I also like the live stream because occasionally when chat does chime in, they often will point out a line of play that I hadn't considered before because maybe I've played the scenario the same way. I've had success playing it a certain way, so I tend to barrel down that well-trodden road every time I play it. And then somebody will say something in the comments like, "Oh, have you considered this idea or that idea?" And you look at the scenario a different way, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I could do this or that," and probably have better success doing it that way. So, and I know initially when I started playing this game, I was always very focused on like going fast, like just trying to play like to I was on the game is always on a timer, and it's a race. It's always a race, but I was running that race even faster than I needed to. And so one of the things I sort of learned over time, I think, is like slow down. Like you do have time to play assets, and you do have time to, draw a card occasionally. And so, I think if anything, playing with people has taught me to be like, okay, well, you've got a doom threshold of 8. You might as well use it. You don't get any bonus points if you beat the scenario when it's with 4 doom on the agenda when you've got 8.
Yeah, and JP and Solar J kind of make good comments too, that sometimes when you get tilted in a game, you like kind of just lose sight and you just like want to get through it as fast as possible. But sometimes chat is really good about just like slowing the pace of the game down in that aspect.
We have a question in the chat. Huitzel, I hope I'm saying that right. How do you think this pandemic has affected Arkham's sense of community?
I mean, that's a good question. I would say that, if anything, it's probably boosted everyone's morale because we're all kind of stuck inside and have more time to play Arkham, especially remotely with, tools like TTS and Octagon and the ever tone-deaf FFG response of, oh, just set up a webcam and have a game master like play on a webcam. But I'm sure there are people that do that, which is cool.
At least the online community has definitely come together. I'm sure it's much harder on people that are used to playing in person. I know I used to. I forced myself to learn TTS because of the pandemic, but I'm glad I did because now I get to play with people from all over the world. I wouldn't have been able to play with JP this morning, So that's definitely a big plus.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I sort of see it as it has positive and negative. Like positive, it does encourage people to play online, and you get to play with people from different places. Oh, we wore the same T-shirt, Nate. Trouble.
What's funny, I thought about wearing that one too.
You go change right now. because we can't show up at the stream wearing the same T-shirt.
We're all wearing black T-shirts, man. We have to be the coolest guys
No.
on the internet right now.
Oh, now that you mentioned black T-shirts, on today's stream for Los Archivos de Arkham, they were like, all the titles for the new expansion packs for Innsmouth sound like metal albums. And if you read them, they really do. They're all like metal album names. It's awesome.
But on the downside, with FFG sort of delaying shipping on its products, we had that long break, several months, and I know that if you look back at the history of card games, like the Star Wars LCG was basically killed by a delay like that. It released, everybody was playing it. All of a sudden, there's months and months without product or information, and the game just never recovered. So while from a content creation perspective, I was happy, it's just like, okay, it gives me a chance to catch up and do some of the stuff I haven't done. At the same time, I'm like, well, I hope it doesn't go too long, because otherwise then people will be just like, well, this game is, there's nothing new, so they move on to, naturally people move on and pursue other interests, and that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, it's true. Someone, what was this comment? Wait, we'll get to that question in a minute, because that's actually hilarious. But since we mentioned JP did send us a question via email at carolinfernthebotanist@gmail.com, and he says, this is so out there, if Pluto is not a planet, but in reality a gateway to another dimension, what would be your Lovecraftian transport of choice to reach the gateway and travel to it? I already know the answer that I'm going to give, because I read all the questions beforehand. So if you guys want to think about it, I'll give my answer.
So I have to get to Pluto, right? So I have to go on a spaceship?
Not necessarily. For me, I'd go through the Migo brain extraction. Why not? That's my transportation of choice. Let them cut out my brain.
I think I would probably go like a dimensional shambler route and go like travel through a different dimension of reality and end up that way.
I think I'd cast astral travel.
Ooh, okay.
Or open gate. One or the other. That'll get me there.
JP says he must have been drunk when he sent us that question. He doesn't remember writing it. He had a beer when we were playing, because it was evening for him and it was like 7:00 in the morning for me. And he's like, yeah, I'm having a beer now. But I'm like, well, it's beer time in your place. Why not have one too?
Right, it's 5:00 somewhere.
Yeah. Colleen K wants to know, which investigator are you most similar to?
That's a good question.
That is a good one.
Well, why don't you answer first, Face? I'm going to need a second to think.
Me? Oh, boy. Why do you have me answer this first? Father Mateo. I'm sorry. It's true. It's a fact.
Now,
I feel like I'm blessed.
This Mateo disease has made you embody him.
I feel like I'm blessed. Okay.
You're like, man from Lang said he was a bad investigator, so I'm going to not only prove him wrong, but I'm going to start cosplaying as him. I'm going to start
role-playing as him.
You're going to be that deranged street person lecturer on the sidewalk in Portland here, and
the end is nigh. The snakes
the
are
end
here.
is nigh.
Well, so my reasons for Father Mateo. I am very blessed. I have great friends and a great community. Great children. You guys. I have a great wife, and I have an awesome life right now, knock on wood. So I'm very happy. I'm fortunate. I'm blessed. And then on top of that, he's Hispanic like me, and he kind of questioned his faith, which I did too, not to get too philosophical. I did too. So I think a lot of things are falling into place, so I can relate with him a lot. So I would say Father Mateo. So now you guys go.
Surprised your answer wasn't machete.
Well, I couldn't use a machete if I was Mateo, and therefore it makes sense because I've never actually used one. But when I was a kid in Panama, my dad owned a machete, and we had a plant, sugarcane plant, and he would chop down the sugarcane for us to chew on and enjoy as treats. So I've seen the machete in action, but never used one. So it makes sense that I'd be Mateo.
Okay. Man, I still need to think about my answer. Actually, probably should go look at all the investigators and pick one at that point.
All right, then Man from Lang, Rex Murphy.
Probably Rex Murphy. Yeah. Yeah, he's, I think, probably the closest. He embodies the inquisitiveness, but also being slightly cursed.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, after that autofill moment, definitely.
Yeah. No, I think he's a pretty good fit. Probably the closest. I can't think of many other. Like I'm not an ex-con. I'm not a millionaire like Preston.
I wish I was Preston if that was the case.
Magician, a botanist.
Like if they can't, like maybe if it wasn't Rex, it would probably be Ursula, just because she's an explorer, a well-traveled explorer, which is I've done a great deal of travel as well, and love that sort of thing. So maybe a combination, but maybe I would be Ursula and Rex's love child if there such an investigator existed.
Okay, so if it was me, if we're going on profession, then I'd have to be Zoe, because I cooked for 15 years. I couldn't be Agnes because I never worked front of house, so.
But are you psychotic like Zoe?
Maybe? I mean, I do get pretty rage in the kitchen sometimes, man. And yeah. It's hard because there's no man-child investigator, so.
There were no man-childs in the 20s and 30s, guys.
Yeah, apparently not.
So you're sort of like Wendy.
I guess so, yeah. Maybe I'm like Wendy and Zoe mixed together because I'm abandoned and alone all up here in New Hampshire.
Wendy, one of the investigators who can use Tennessee Sour Mash, the cigarette case, courage.
Okay, yeah. Then I guess I'd be Wendy because
there you go.
I'm a child that can smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol.
There you go. Yeah, that was a good question. Back to Adrian P. Well, you know what? Let's go to that one in chat. Man, I can't believe it. We're actually filling the 2 hours with all the Q&As. So I guess trivia would have ran long. Where is that question? I lost it now. Here we go. What is your favorite? This is Sageless One. What's your favorite gaming podcast, and why is it no pun intended?
The trolls are real, man. To answer that question seriously, it's probably Shut Up and Sit Down. Those guys are great.
I like No Pun Included. I still watch them. I like them. I just disagree with their review of Arkham Horror LCG. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. To be fair, we're not criticizing them as a whole. We're just criticizing that particular review. So I'm sure they're lovely people.
Yeah, I've never watched them until that one, so I don't. Because of that, I don't want to watch them again. I do like Shut Up and Sit Down as well. I can't say I listen to them regularly. I do listen regularly. Used to listen to the Mythos Busters regularly, but I've fallen behind because we've been doing so much stuff here on side projects and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I guess those would be the answers for me.
Who are the Mythos Busters? I've never heard of them before.
Yeah. I heard they put on events on weekends. They do weird stuff.
Yeah, they do some stuff.
Okay. Here's the question. I'm not sure how we're going to answer it. Again, a DMP. Any chances of one of us mortal cultists being invited to the podcast or even becoming a great old one? So, can I answer this one briefly and then I'll let you guys chime in?
Absolutely.
Okay. because we record once a month, and schedules are so crazy for us that, we always have to figure out way in advance how we're going to record and all this stuff. It's hard to get people on unless there's a specific reason for it. That's why we have very few guests on. And when we do, usually there's only like two of us or one of us interviewing the guest because our schedules are so conflicting. So the chances of getting a worshiper on for a podcast, sorry to say, is probably not very high as of right now because of these factors. Unless you have something happening where we would want to get you on because it's something that's important for the community or something like that, maybe, And then as far as becoming a great old one, for the same reasons, I would say like the scheduling conflicts are really, really, really difficult between all of us because we all have real jobs and then we have side things that we do. So like Mythos Busters, they just do the Mythos Busters, right? Drawn to the Flame, just do Drawn to the Flame. We do great old ones, and then we all have our own side things. So, and then plus jobs and all that stuff. So to add another factor into it, look at this. We already don't have Nathan here today, and it's for that reason, right? So it would be very difficult to have a bigger crew than we already have now. So that's my answer. Now you guys can go ahead and see what you guys think.
You are correct.
Yeah, so part of it is a technical thing too. So the way we record our podcast, since we live, across the country from each other, we have to record on a double ender, and the double ender that we use only allows 4 people in a chat at once. So that's part of the issue. And then it's like, not to say that it's impossible, but I think especially for worshipers, we do really like to host games, like RPG games, and like do live events on Twitch and stuff. And I think that that's a more appropriate place for that type of content.
That's really spot on, actually. Yep. Okay, from the chat.
Yeah, like if there's something you're interested in doing with the great old ones, that's probably easier to organize than coming on the podcast. Like if people were interested in doing, I'm running 2 sessions of Curtain Call this weekend, but if there was enough interest, I'm not opposed to running it again at some point. I mean, all the work's done, so it's just finding the time to do it. And as long as you're not too concerned about who's involved, then it's easy to do. Or like to play on TTS or Octagon or something like that. It's usually easier to do it one-on-one rather than when you try to get multiple people involved, then schedules and real life and all that stuff quickly intervenes. And
yeah, trust me, we have a hard enough time just getting the 4 of us on a regular episode. So
if you guys knew what goes on in the background, and it's it kind of leads to our other question, because Duidismo from the Archivos Arkham put in a question in the chat. Having a Spanish speaker in the crew, when are you coming for a cameo appearance in Los Archivos? Well, we're having 2 of you guys on. So you guys are coming on our show probably next episode or the episode after. We still got to work out dates and stuff. So definitely you guys are going to be on our show. Now, as far as us on your show, we have to work out logistics. I know I was talking with Pepe with the machete. Last year, we were talking about going on the show, but because of all the side projects and stuff, I completely lost track of it, to be honest. But I would love to be on the show with you guys. You guys are so much fun. And waiting on your call. Yeah, I would love to. So I do speak Spanish. I speak Spanish. It's my primary or my first language. English is my second language. But because the Archivos de Arkham are from Spain, the accents are way different. So it takes like a millisecond for me to process it versus someone speaking like from Mexico or Panama or Central America, really. But definitely, Duidismo, definitivamente voy a estar en el programa de ustedes pronto. Así que me esperan porque algún tiempo en este año. Anyways, that was from the chat. We have another chat question. We have Nate Babyface, where's it? Oh, how many beers does it take for you to not be able to regularly what? To say regular
How
I
many
can't
beers
even
does it take you? Oh my
now
God! Wow,
apparently
JP, you're drunk.
did it on purpose. Yeah, he did it on purpose so we would stutter it. All right, never mind. So Star King 177 wants to know what difficulty do we usually play on?
Standard.
Standard.
Same standard.
I did go through a phase where I played on hard, but I yeah, standard's fine. I don't particularly need the I know there's some people who want to be really challenged by the game, and that's fine. I think you play on whatever difficulty you feel comfortable with, and I know there's some people who play on easy, some people who play standard, and others who play nothing but expert. And any level is fine as long as you're playing the game and having fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me personally, if I played at a higher difficulty level, I would probably get more frustrated because the variance is so much greater and you're just going to fail more tests and there's going to be very little you can do about it. And I think that would frustrate me. Whereas on standard, I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on when I'm going to pass and fail, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you're still going to fail tests if you draw a tentacle or whatnot. But at least I feel like if I fail a test, I probably deserve to fail it, rather than if you played on harder expert where it's just like you're just going to draw -8s and -6s and stuff. And it's very, very difficult at that to pass those to muster to be +6 on a lot of different tests. You're basically accepting like 1 or 2 tests a game. I'm going to be able to really jack up my skill value high enough to take all the tokens out of the chaos bag.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a different game, and it's not that there's anything bad about it. It's just a preference thing for as far as difficulty. I find standard to be difficult enough, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm right there with you,
and
Mace.
it's
I
a
suck at
different.
this game.
You got to build a different type of deck too. I mean, when you start to look at value cards, like anything that makes you make a skill test, its value goes down, while any card that makes you get clues or damage for free goes up in value, because without if you don't have to make a test, it's fantastic at that level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where those cards, like if you're playing on an easier mode, then those cards aren't necessarily as important because it's not as hard to get clues or kill enemies.
Yeah, they're just gravy. Another question from let me grab the last one from the email, and then we can just go to chat questions and then wrap this up. This is a quick one. Finally, from the MP again. Finally, but most importantly, why don't you guys, Vase, Nathan, Man from Lang, tell Nate the secret to having awesome-looking facial hair, or to just have any at all? I don't know that he can grow any yet.
That's
15,
assuming
20
that
years.
Nate can grow facial hair, and that hasn't
Dude,
been
I
proven
can't.
yet.
It's bad, man. It takes me like a week just to get 5 o'clock shadow.
That's so crazy.
Permanent baby face, man.
You're lucky, man. You don't know how lucky you are to look so young. All right. No, question from the chat. Unless new ones come in, then we'll wrap up after. What do you guys read horror or watch horror movies? And what sort of things do you prefer?
I definitely read more horror than I watch horror. I think usually when I watch movies and TV, it's more of an unwinding time for me, but reading is an engaging activity for me, so I like to read horror more than I watch horror. And as far as things that I've read recently, I've actually picked up Uzumaki, which is a very Lovecraftian inspired manga series by Gunji Ito. So I'm excited to delve into that. And then he also, I was also recommended this manga version of, I don't know if you can see that, At the Mountains of Madness by, I believe it's Gol Tanabe. So I'm really excited to check these out at some point too.
I do not read horror and I do not watch horror most of the time. My son is the horror fan. I I avoided horror movies like the plague when I was younger, and then I have sat down and I can watch them and I enjoy them, but generally I seek out, if I'm going to watch stuff, I usually watch sci-fi or anime or something like that, not necessarily horror movies. And if I read horror, it's mostly Lovecraft and Associates, and like I've never read a Stephen King novel or anything like that. If I my wife always laughs at me because whenever I read a book, it's always like some monumental tome that requires a lot of work, and it's not considered easy reading. Like one of my favorite books is Gravity's Rainbow, and that's not something you just pick up and read on a weekend.
What about you, Vase?
I don't read too much. I think the thing I read most often is dictionary, and then the movie thing. I do like movies a lot. I like horror movies. It's my favorite genre of film, and luckily my wife loves horror movies too. So we're always watching horror movies, and we go to the Lovecraft Festival every year, film festival every year. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind reading a short story here and there, but kind of like you, man, from like the investment in a big book like that, like, and then if it has no payoff, to me, it feels like such a waste of time. Whereas a movie, you blow an hour and a half or 2 hours most of the time. But a book, I mean, you're blowing hours upon hours upon hours of your free time. And when you're reading, you can't do something else. When you're watching a movie, you could be like, jumping on your phone, doing some, whatever, typing the script for your next video and still pay attention. Whereas with reading, you have to focus on that 100%. And, even books that come highly recommended, like you mentioned Stephen King, I mean, you're not missing much, I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of filler in his books. And I think he goes off on tirades because he's doing his stuff and drinking and cocaine and all this stuff. And it's like, he just goes off on tangents for chapters on end. And it's completely irrelevant to the rest of the story. And you would think there's a deeper meaning to it. Nope. It's just completely irrelevant. Like if you read it, I read some Stephen King when I was younger, and they always start off great. The premise is good. It's kind of like Lovecraft. The premise is good. There's something there that's good, but the story itself isn't developed properly ever. Never.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I think like maybe if I found the right horror book, I would enjoy it. But I mean, society has changed so much since back in the day when reading was a thing that a lot of people did, and unfortunately I think I've gravitated away from it more to watching movies, or even at work. I because my job is fairly is not very intellectually intensive, so I tend to like just put on Netflix and listen to things, so I don't actually watch.
mm-hmm.
Like I listened to I think they've got like 3 Godzilla movies on, some anime Godzilla movies. So I just listened to them. Like I didn't watch any of it. I just listened to it, and so I do that with a lot of stuff these days, so I can catch up on. Like it turned out, I always thought I was, a Star Trek fan, but I started listening to all the original series episodes and realized as a kid I'd only seen like 2.
Whoa.
It's like I'd seen the one where I think it was the Mirror episode, and then the Mirror Universe episode, and then like one other one. And so I've been going through, and it's just like, wow, I missed like a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point. The listening thing, that's what I do with YouTube. You know, I transit, so I like put on YouTube so I can watch the surroundings because it's always dangerous, right? But I'm listening to YouTube the whole time, and I don't necessarily always watch it, just listen to it. And sometimes, like you said, man, from like I'll put on Netflix and I'll be working on stuff on the computer now and have it in the background playing, and I'll still pay attention. My wife is shocked all the time because she's like, when we watch a movie and we're just focusing on it, You're always asking me what's going on. You're always asking me questions about the plot. But then when you're not sitting paying attention to it, you know everything that's happening. I'm like, yeah, I guess.
Man,
I
that's
guess
weird.
maybe.
Dude, I'm the
Yeah, I don't
total
know.
opposite. I have to like divert all of my attention onto one thing. Like I can't. I'm terrible at multitasking.
Yeah,
Which is
like the
probably
other
why
day,
I like reading more than watching movies in that aspect.
she comes over. I'm at the computer, and she's like, she sees Vikings is in the background, and we've been watching at different intervals. And then she's like, "Do you know what's going on there?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, the king betrayed this guy, and then his brother came and talked to the wife, and then they teamed up with these people, and they went." And she goes, "How the hell do you know that? You're not paying attention." Yeah, it's great.
It's the classic adage of "You're not listening." Yeah, sure, okay. Whatever you say,
Well,
hon.
how fitting. My phone is about to die, and that's what I was monitoring the chat with.
We do have one last question from JP, and I think it's a pretty good question to wrap up the episode with.
JP, go to bed. Just go to bed,
We have
JP.
a game at 7
You've been
o'clock.
up for, I don't know. I think JP's been up since Thursday at this point. Just go to bed, JP.
Well, it's Finland, so the sun is like up for 20 plus hours. You know?
I know. He's probably
even
like
4 a.m. here. But it is an interesting question, and I do think it's worth asking on the show here. What is the most interesting starter investigator for each of you guys? Let's start with you, Pace. Yes.
Of the new packs. Interesting. I think interesting probably Winifred. But I'll probably never play her. I don't play Rogue a lot.
Okay, then what would be your favorite of the 5?
My favorite of the 5, probably Jacqueline, because I like the idea of this whole psychic who can, I think that her mechanics really play well to what she does, so I like her a lot. And there's a lot of great new Mystic cards in her deck that I really think are going to play really awesome. So I think I'm most excited for her. Your turns.
I'd have to say, after looking at the spoilers, the one that sort of piqued my interest the most was Harvey Walters, which I was surprised by because I typically don't play a lot of Seekers. But I don't know whether it was just the art on his cards or the mechanics or what was it, but I looked at his deck and I was kind of like, yeah, I really want to play this one and see. Jacqueline, I was kind of like, I play a ton of Mystics and but the Chaos Bag manipulation I don't find as interesting, so I may not end up actually playing her. Like I don't play a lot of Chaos Bag manipulation Mystic like Jim Culver and stuff like that. Like when there was that Jim Culver deck going around, like playing with the tokens and whatnot. I don't tend to play that style of Mystic deck. So Jacqueline isn't. But yeah, I think it was Harvey. I looked at his cards and I'm just like, yeah, this has grabbed me for whatever reason, which I didn't expect. And maybe that's because I have played I haven't played the decks themselves, but I have played with most of I think all of the investigators except Jacqueline and Harvey. And so I sort of have an idea of how Nathaniel's deck plays, and I know how I've played a lot of Winifred, so I know how she plays. And Stella, I've played one or two games with her, so I think it's just the idea of having your entire deck in your hand. I'm not too sure how that actually works in practice.
Yeah.
I mean, you've only got 30 cards in your deck, so how many of them will you have in your hand at any one time?
Yeah, because there's one, not to spoil anything, but there's one where you have to have 15 cards in your hand or something for it to do its biggest benefit.
Yeah, that was one of the preview cards on the website.
Yeah, the Solano Fragments is 15 cards.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So considering, cards in hand, cards in deck, and cards on table, you're not going to have a ton of cards but I don't really know how hard, is he an event based or is he asset heavy or whatnot? So I guess we'll find that out when the decks come out later this month and get a better idea of what the deck actually looks like. But I do agree with you, Vase, that there are a lot of really cool Mystic cards in Jacqueline's deck that I'm looking forward to playing in other Mystics.
Like Mateo. Yeah.
Well, let's not get carried away. I had my Mateo phase 2 years ago. You'll come around eventually, and you'll see the error of your ways, and
Yeah, God, base.
just give it a few more games, and you'll be just like, you'll never want to play him again.
It's not, no, because ever since Versatile came out and he can actually play the machete,
Yeah,
it's over.
well,
over.
now it sounds like Mateo's your spirit animal. So
All right, Nate, tell us yours.
I think for me, it's a toss-up between Winifred and Stella, because those are just my two favorite classes in the game to begin with. And Winifred, to me, is particularly interesting because I really like the idea of like jumbling tons of skill cards into a single test and then getting a bunch of cards back, like similar to Silas in that regard. I really like that style of play, and I tend to gravitate towards high agility investigators to begin with, so Winifred is a slam dunk for me. And I'm curious to see how Stella plays. I've been avoiding playing any of the starter deck investigators until their decks officially come out, so I'm really interested to see how they work around Stella's ability to gain extra actions after failing tests, because it seems like you could do some really pretty broken things with it.
Yeah, Stella feels really strong. Really strong, for sure.
Yeah, having played her the 2 games with her, she was there's lots of interesting combo potential there that I think will be interesting to play. Probably after Mystic, I play Survivor. I play them all. Except Seeker. I tend not to play Seeker all that often, but I did play Seeker at Arkham Knights last year, so... But it was Ursula, who I think is a slightly different kind of Seeker.
Mm-hmm.
Not
very roguish Seeker, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, great chat. I'm glad we were able to fill the 2 hours, and we had some really good questions from the audience. Yeah, between the chat and the email. So I feel like they were really interesting, and I got to learn some stuff about you guys. Man from Lang's non-native English story.
we have that in common. Vase.
Yep.
English isn't my first language either.
So then come with me to the Archivos de Arkham when we go on. We're going to.
Well, as long as the only thing I know how to say in Spanish is "Donde está la estación de tren?" So as long as that's the only thing you ask me, as long as that's the only thing I have to say, and there's an actual answer for it, we're good.
I can't imagine a question they would ask you where the answer would be, "Where's the train station?" I just can't imagine asking that.
I know. It's my language is pretty narrow.
Dude, I can barely speak English, let alone Spanish, French, German, anything else, man. It's bad.
Right. It's funny. We were watching Top Chef last night in one of the seasons, and one guy writes he wrote something on the table, like trying to be fun and like avant-garde-ish. He writes something on the table with the food, and he wrote alligator, and he freaking misspelled alligator. Like, dude, you're trying to be cool, and you don't even spell the word right. Anyways, just thought I'd throw that in.
I guess with that, we can say later, Gators. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I am Nate, lost in time and space. Yeah, same. So. Ta-ta.